You're listening to The Real Deal Conversations, a podcast designed to encourage, inspire, and equip you by sharing real stories and meaningful conversations that bring real life to the surface. I'm your host, Megan Deal. Let's dive in. Honestly, I don't even know how to intro it because as a parent, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to say before we start, there's a lot of people. I think what's very interesting to me is the way I've been on a call with you on a Zoom meeting where you lead a group. I've watched your Facebook. I have reference for you. I've watched how you lead a group. And I think there's something incredible about how you are able to do what you do today with something so hard and difficult. And I don't even have words to describe that for you. But so I guess what I'm saying is listen up, guys, because I have a lot of respect for Chance with how I see him lead, knowing that he had a lot of heartache. So I'll let you bring us to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this impacted an entire community. And my wife and I have raised 4 boys. So Tanner's 32, Landon would be 27. Reed is 21, Cross is 15. And 10 years ago, it's crazy to think that it's been 10 years ago, the night before Thanksgiving in 2014, there was a very bad accident south of Nixa, Missouri. And it was probably about 30 minutes, maybe a little further south. And my wife got a phone call the night before Thanksgiving. I remember sitting down with Landon in the living room, visiting with him. And our kids have always known that we love them, but I don't always tell them every time. My wife's better about doing that every time the kids leave or do whatever. But that particular time, that was the last thing I said to Landon. It was, I love you. And he was going to rope. He was a roper. He was a cowboy. So he was going to rope in a barn with some friends and just for fun. And 8 boys ended up getting in the truck and they were driving on a very dark road. And later that evening, we got a phone call. My wife did. And all we knew was Landon was in an accident. We didn't know it was serious. We assumed we were just going to have to show up there and deal with whatever the ramification, whatever it was. And didn't really know. I mean, as we got in the car to drive, we didn't even know where the accident was. And so they just said, south of Nixa. Mm-hmm. And as we were heading into Nixa, we saw an ambulance going south. So we thought, well, we'll follow the ambulance. And the whole way out there, I'm not thinking it's as bad as it was. I don't really know. I'm literally praying the whole time. But I'm also remembering just the power of our example and how we do respond in times of adversity. And, that's definitely something my mom taught me about just the daily grind and how hard life can be and things we can't control. But we get out there to the scene and it's absolutely horrific. They were on a very dark road. It was very dangerous and no lights, but yet you get out there and there's oh my gosh, I couldn't even tell you how many, highway patrol, sheriff, everything, and multiple ambulances because there were 8 boys in the truck. Four did survive. We were extremely thankful. 4 boys survived the accident. 4 did not. And there was a helicopter and we were at the top of the hill. We did try to go down and see them like any parent would. They would not let us go down there. I'm personally very thankful that they didn't let us go down there to see them in that situation. We were there for quite a while. I really said, you get in that situation and it's such a fog, you don't really remember. But later that evening at whatever time, somebody came up the hill. I don't remember if they were paramedic or policeman. I don't remember. And they just said to my wife and I that Landon did not make it. And we grabbed each other and, just held each other. Mm-hmm. And her first words to me were, "This can't break us." And my immediate response, without even thinking, was, "We can't add anything negative to this." And, I do know from everything in me that was absolutely, God, being there for me. I pray very simple prayers after that night. I prayed one prayer every day for many days. And it was just simply, God, just please fill me and flow through me. Because I knew that's what I needed. And I knew I didn't have anything to give, but we were there. And as hard as that was to hear that, there's other aspects of this that are, I believe, almost equally as hard. Driving home on that long drive. And now a lot of our family are now at our house. And I do remember pulling in the driveway and thinking, I cannot believe I've got to walk in here and tell my family that our son just died. And so you have that, to tell your other kids and your parents, and we have a very close family. And then it was, just me thinking every moment is, and my wife and I think when I said, we can't add anything negative, this is our kids are watching. And doesn't mean they can't see us hurt. It doesn't mean they can't see everything that's very real about this. But it's like now I can kind of look back at that statement of we can't add anything negative to this. I mean, it just came out. But now I can look back at it and go, it doesn't even make common sense to add anything negative to something you can't even put into words how bad it is. You can't describe it. I mean, people say, man, I don't know what to say. I'm like, there's nothing you can say, there's nothing I can say. And as hard as it is to lose a child, as a father and a husband, I can't fix it for my wife. I can't fix it for my kids, but I can, just take one more step, one more day, just get up, it would be easy to grab a bottle and sit in a corner and go, focus on what we've lost. But I would say what my wife and I have focused on the entire time, as hard as it's been, and there have been extremely hard times, and we both had to learn from somebody else who had lost a child. Thank God we learned this. They shared it with us, and I don't remember what it was, but months later, they talked about how they processed grief differently. And we were processing it so differently that it could be a challenge. And we weren't really at each other about it, but you're sitting here processing it so differently that you really don't know what the other one's thinking. You don't, and we're both in survival mode. We're both just trying to go another day. And we both know we have to get up. Now, I believe we say it that way because that's what we believe. We choose to get up. There are people that go through adversities that are not that significant, that truly are a lot less, and it cripples their life and they can't function and they spiral it down. And I'm not saying those aren't significant. I'm just saying there is differences in the adversities that we have, and I've had them. And some things can knock it. Now, that may be that person's hardest thing, and that's all they know, and that's their hardest thing, and they have a hard time coming back from it. But we both truly chose to believe and say that we have to get up and go. We have to do something. Our kids have to see us living. And then as you start to do that, and you use that word, it's such a huge word for me, being intentional. As we're intentionally doing that every day, it compounds in our favor, meaning we know it's the right thing. Even though we feel everything we feel, we know it's the right thing. And our kids are going to go through their own challenges later in life. They may go through them now. I don't know what challenges they're going to have, but we do know they've seen parents go through an extreme challenge, and they're going to inherently think that they can get through it. And I subconsciously already knew I could get through challenges because of the example of my mom. And now earlier on in my 20s and 30s, I struggled with sympathy and empathy because I was having a hard time understanding how people could feel so down about whatever it was they thought they were going through. Now, as I've matured and aged and, done a little more life, I realized, man, everybody's hardest thing is their hardest thing. I respect it. I have both sympathy and empathy. But going through that was crazy, but the best person for me was her. She kept getting up and going, and the best, hopefully for her, I was one of the best, is like I kept up and get going, and we were just blessed, and so we focus, this is what I was going to say. It's like, we focus on the 17 years we had. We don't focus on what we don't have. That we can think about it, but we go and do our best to focus on the 17 years we had and think about what we had with him. And there are so many things we can do. They say comparison is the thief of all joy. The Bible does, and it can be. But we can also use comparison in a very healthy way to step back and just not compare in a sense of where I'm not and somebody else is, but just step back and know that we can gain some perspective and learn from, like, oh, here's an example. I think if I say this right, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I'm pretty sure Paul was a pretty bad guy. right? I mean, I think if I remember right, he cut the heads off of Christians before he was blinded, and he was Saul, and then he's blinded, and then he becomes a Christian, and he writes most of the Bible. And I'm like, okay, I'm not that bad. I'm like, I can relate to, I can't relate to that guy completely, but it's like, that gives me hope. It's like, that is, he's gone through things I've never gone through. And so that's kind of a weird example, but I do think we can compare ourselves to Jesus. We can compare ourselves to stories in the Bible. We can compare ourselves to people that are further than us. If we can use it in a way to help us get further and have a healthier perspective on things.
Absolutely.
Not in a way that there's the way we tend to do it on social media and otherwise is we compare our backstage life to other people's front stage life.
Yes.
That's not healthy. Comparing what we have versus what other people have. It's like, we're all meant to be the very best version of who we are. And you're the only person that can be that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else can be that best version of whoever they are, whoever you are. I can't be the best version of you. I can be like, man, I want to be like, Michael Jordan. Well, I'm not going to be Michael Jordan, but people will aspire to be like other people, and they'll be like, I wish I had what they had in whatever way. And it's like, you can learn from it and aspire to have similarities, but really where we need to figure out is who are we meant to be?
Yes.
Who are we created to be? Who does God say we are?
Yes. And
how can we go and work on becoming more self-aware of who we are, who God says we are, and who we can become?
And, the thing is, because we are so uniquely created by our Heavenly Father, like, nobody can duplicate our mission, our goal, how it's carried out, our character, like all the things. And so you can take somebody else's, but it will never be effective because it wasn't meant for you.
That's right.
And so to exactly what you said, And I kind of want to ask a couple of questions.
Okay.
So for somebody who is in the middle of it, because I actually know a couple who is in the middle of it, was this a few months ago. So for people who are in the middle of it and are unsure how to handle it, there's bad days, or in marriage, the how to navigate the differences in grief. What would you say to them? Let's start with navigating the differences in grief amongst spouses.
Yeah.
What would you say to help them and to know that there's grace in navigating that and not always navigating it perfect? Like, what would you say to them?
Well, we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
Until a couple who had lost their child shared with us, and they couldn't say anything to fix our grief, right? I can't say anything to fix their grief or solve for it, but we didn't know what we didn't know, and we were just trying to do our best to go through this and figure it out as we were going. And when they said, we found that we processed our grief differently, and I think they probably gained that from someone else. It gave us permission, and we really sat back and took a deep breath internally and together. Even afterwards, we're like, wow, because we are processing our grief very differently. And I think that gave us permission to do that, to step back a little bit and then think not just the grief, all of it, all of it, like what people say to you, because people will want to say things to you that will they care. They don't know what to say. I remember, because I've worked in the investment and benefits world for years, and we've had many clients lose people, and I've had friends lose a spouse, and I've had clients lose a child before me, and I didn't know what to say. I remember feeling like I didn't know what to say. I wanted to let them know I cared, but I didn't know what to say. And now that I've lost a child, there's nothing anybody can say. Now, are there things that people can say to help us along the path? Absolutely. And we found that. And I do think sometimes, although you never want to be in this circle of families and couples that have lost children, I do think sometimes it is in people who've been in your path, but they were in it earlier and they're further down the road. I know we have had people referred to Sherry and I, where one of us have connected with them because they see us still standing. They don't know how great it is. They're just like, how are you functioning? How do you do this? How do you go out and do business and still, be a great mom or do whatever it is their perception is of what we do? And people will try to connect us with them. And again, we can't solve for it. We can't fix it, but we can at least share with them that we care, we're in it together. There are some communities like Lost and Found that we have here locally that does attempt to help people in groups go through that path. Now, I did not want to sit in that circle. I have a tremendous amount of respect and I would recommend people go there. We did 3 different things. I mean, we tried an individual counselor. That was my least favorite. If he could have talked with a normal tone of voice, I think it would have been awesome. But if somebody talks quietly, I really struggle with that. Yeah. I'm like, anyway, that's drive me crazy. But he was good. He was good. He was Christian based and he was good. But I was like, can you talk normal? Like really quiet questions. But I was doing all of it because Sherry wanted to go do it. She's searching for how can I get help? We had Reed, who was 12 at the time, struggling, and we then found at a church, there was a grief class. We went through that, minimal help, but it was just something, right? And then we found a couple in there that was further than where we were. So it was that little bit of connection with people that are just further than where you are. So if there is anybody out there and they want to reach out to me, again, you can share my contact information on what you're doing. And I'm happy to connect with them or get them connected with my wife. I mean, we definitely want to be there for people as we can, but I would say the grief is different, but other things are different too. That's not the only thing that's different. And it takes time and work. And the other thing I can't imagine, and while I said earlier, I wasn't a big fan of church growing up, I can't imagine going through it not having God and having faith in my life because you don't know where to go. Now, there are people that are Christians that have lost children that really struggle. They're very angry about it. They're angry with God. I'd rather see somebody be angry with God and go to God with it. He created us with every emotion we could possibly have. Now, it'd be great if we can learn how to control our emotions, but I'd rather go to God with anger than not go to God because that's what the other side wants us to do is to be angry and not go and to quit communicating. And I would rather just go throw it all at him and just, whether I feel like I get an answer or not, I would just say, just keep going because as we have been around many couples, that is a common difference. People that don't know where to turn for hope, they don't know where to turn. I mean, they've lost this child. They don't know where to go. People with faith, although they're angry, they're asking questions. It doesn't seem fair. They at least have a place to go. And over time, if you keep going, that to me has been the best for me personally, because again, that alone time and devotional time, that's important for me.
But I think what you said, thank you for saying what you said about being angry with God over not being with God. I think some people need to know right now, like they have permission to be angry in that space. I think a lot of times it's this buildup of I have to be perfect and minding my P's and Q's when I go to him. And that's not it. Like that's our Father.
It's not a real conversation.
No, like you have permission to go to him angry. Like you have permission to go to him and wrestle with him. You have permission to say the things that in the darkest part of your soul need to be said. And he's there. He's there to listen. He's there to hold you. He's there. And some people hear that and say, well, if I was ever like that with my earthly father, I would have been XYZ and punished. And so it's very easy to be like, Megan, that's not possible, but it is possible with our heavenly Father, no God. Doubt. Like he wants to hold you in it. He wants to listen. He wants to listen and be there. So thank you for saying that. That's huge.
Yeah.
When navigating things with your spouse in the middle of this, what is something what are some tools or tips you would give people to navigate that? Would it be like if you guys don't know how to communicate in the moment, or if you guys, hindsight, what would you tell people in how to navigate that, giving space, or I don't know. So what would you tell people who, if they're in like today, if they had a really hard time and they weren't very kind to each other, what advice would you give them navigating that?
I don't know that I would have a great answer for them. I think we've done a great job of not adding negative to it and focusing on what we have had. So I think individually, if we can individually find a place where we can have a perspective that doesn't make it worse,
Okay.
and that's individually. And if we can individually work on our own individual life, our relationship with God, I do think there's a shot there of us coming together there, but we got to work on ourselves. Like on a plane, they say you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on the other person. So, and my wife and I are literally in a coaching group right now that is a couple who coaches married couples. So we are doing coaching right now. Like, we're not coaching them. We're being coached. Like 30 years in, we want help. We want to get better. We want, and probably had we had something like this, maybe not immediately, but like a year or 2 years later, I don't know if we would have done it, but that could have been good, because they talk so much about how we communicate differently, and not just grieve, but how you communicate differently.
Yeah.
And I do go back to one thing that Coach Perry teaches, that we teach the R factor, which is how we respond to anything. And the first step is pause. So I would say that learning that from him in the personal growth space is that no matter what it is, if we could stop and pause before we respond to something, especially in something so emotional, because losing a child is so overwhelmingly emotional. When we tend to make a decision and respond in an emotion, it can snowball against each other. And Sherry and I have done that. We've had almost every married couple's had that. And then you're in this super heightened emotional state, and things go negative. And then you could make really bad decisions in this emotional state. And that's, I think, probably partly why some married couples don't make it. It gets so emotional and things snowball against them. And that probably comes back to normal communication. Sherry and I are not experts at that. That's why we just recently, we're like, hey, we probably ought to do this. And we both weren't 100% sure if we were like, well, will we do this? Will we be coachable? We're 30 years in, we're somewhat set in our ways, maybe. I do think your association, I would go back to the associations. I would say, if you don't have an association that can help you in this space, individually or together or both, to connect with, not people to fix it. They can't fix it. But to connect with. And again, men don't tend to do that very often, but it's important to find a few, find a few men that you can connect with. Same thing for the wife, have a few. Now, more likely the wife does, but are they talking about how to make things better? Either side, or are they just complaining about how things are? It's like, where are we focused? I think we tend to, human nature, take things that are so hard, and we're focused on the negative. We're focused on how hard it is, how bad it is. And we don't even realize our thoughts are spiraling into making them worse, because if our thoughts are bad, then our actions are going to be bad, which is going to lead to our habits. And our habits are then going to continue to be a wedge between us and the spouse, the way we communicate. And that happens normally as we have these communication things that are funny when we're dating. And then when we're married, they're not funny. And, it's like, and then you take the emotion of a severe adversity and you have this communication differences. I mean, Sherry and I communicate very differently, and that has created times where it's not very good. And then we both have to kind of step back and realize later, it's like, wait a minute. Okay. We don't want to be apart. She's like, hey, this can't break us. And we know that, like, our vision there is the grandparents being together 74 years. We have a common vision. So we have that common vision. And I don't know. I mean, where there is no vision, people perish. And sometimes I think we go through life and we're so busy being busy, we don't even know what our vision is for the future. And that's why couples will get to their empty nesters and they're like, who are we?
Yeah.
Do we like each other? And we're going a couple of different directions. I don't know that I have a great answer, other than what helped us was where I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And that was in a circle of other people who had lost children.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I told her I didn't want to be there, but I told her I would go. And my personality did not want that at all.
Yeah.
I am a hardened inside from all the stuff of the past. I'm like, I can handle this. Yeah. Now I can't, nobody can, but I'm like, I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to help other people get through it too. It's just my human nature. Yeah. Okay. At the demise of my marriage and everything else and my kids, I mean, it's like, I needed help. I didn't want to sit in that circle. So I think not every community has a lost and found. If they're local, it's a great place to at least start,
Yeah.
having conversations. We had people come in there from all different time frames to literally a month after, which to me, I think it'd be extremely hard, but it's hard even for us. We were there a year after,
Yeah.
and it's very hard. It's like every conversation, every time you go in there, it's like picking a scab. And so there's a lot of challenge in it, but there's a lot of good things that can come from that challenge. So hopefully that's not an answer that's all over the place.
No,
but
I think it's fantastic, because I know there's people out there who don't want to make that step. And I think
nobody wants to sit in that circle.
Yeah.
Nobody.
But you normalize that, and I appreciate that. Another question I have is for couples who, or even individuals, a single parent. So anyone who has lost a child, has other children, how do you navigate, even if it's learning from mistakes, like however we can, take this, how do you navigate giving your children the attention that they still need? How do you navigate coming alongside them in the way they need while you're needing to take care of your needs? How do you navigate all that?
Yeah. You're asking some really good questions, really hard questions.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm an expert to give that answer. Really, how we did it was what I did personally.
Even if we have to learn from it.
Yes.
Yes.
What I did personally was my focus was on how do I respond every day? Meaning they're going to more than likely, like stats will say 80 to 90%, they're going to duplicate a lot of what I do. So how am I going to respond? And how can we help them is such a hard thing, because they're going through it at a different age and they're processing it differently. And we don't know how to solve it for them either, right? Other than they need to see us functioning at some level, I believe, and somehow figuring out, how can I grow 1%, meaning go function, grow 1%, do a little bit, just a little bit. Let them see that we can take one step, right? And that's one thing I think. The other is let them see just the realness of it, and if there's ever opportunities for them to know how it feels, how it hurts, that's relatable. They're going to be able to see that too. And everybody's going to be different there. We struggled. Our youngest was young, Cross was very young. He was like 5 or 6. So he didn't fully comprehend it. He did get a little bit of I can't remember what they call that, but he was kind of attached to us a little bit more, because it's like, oh, somebody's gone. Reed was 12 going into his teen years, and he got like me, very stoic, very angry, very serious natured. And he didn't know how to process it. He bottled it. He compartmentalized it. That's what I've done my entire life. So guess what he was duplicating? He was duplicating that. So I kind of going back to the question about parenting, there's no book, there's no perfect plan. Can we learn things from different people that might help us get through our path that have been there? Yeah, I think we can, but it's a process of being just get a little bit better every day, be honest, and be present. So it's like, I've always wanted to coach my kids. It was an area I felt like I could add value in their life and spend time with them there. So I've coached them in different sports and be there with them. I want to be there with them in ways that I feel like I can add value and be present, where maybe I haven't been a great dad in some ways of teaching literal things, steps along the way, like, okay, at this age, you're going to learn this lesson or whatever. Or like, for sure, I haven't done what my wife wishes I knew, which her grandpa knew how to do everything, right? He knew how to fix everything. I can't fix anything. So I don't get to teach my boys how to fix anything. Yeah. And so I haven't been able to do that. They're going to have to learn that from other great people, men and women. And so the importance of this is another thing that comes to my mind, and that is Sherry and I've been so fortunate to have great friends and great support. And for our kids to see that is huge, because they know how important it is. And they know how important it is as they grow up. Are they going to have friends like that? Yeah. And that matters. And we've been very fortunate. Our kids have had great friends, and they've been very close, and they've been the kind of friends you could count on. And I think our kids will be those kind of kids and those kind of friends, for people. So, but the general answer is, like all of your questions, I feel like I don't know is the answer, but
that's okay. I love that. Sometimes I think it's okay not to have an answer, but to just, like, hey, this is how we did it. This is,
it's just such a hard situation.
Yeah.
And they talk about that at Lost and Found. It's like, man, there's not anybody that can solve for it. And so as I tell you initially, and at the end, I don't know, I try to give you an answer because the man in me, the person in me wants to fix it. I want to try to give, something that's there. Now for me, putting good things in my mind first thing in the morning, every single day for me was the most important thing. So I start every single day with putting good stuff in my mind.
Yes.
And I really got, obsessed about that in 2011 and 12. And so that's for me, but that doesn't necessarily work for everybody. Maybe some people are readers at night but here's the thing. If we don't direct what goes into our mind intentionally, we are going to get whatever goes in our mind by default of everybody we're around. And if we're not around people who are thinking better, who are loving and edifying and growing, if we're not around people who are growing and they're all just standing still and we wonder, why are we not getting further in life? Why are we not able to get through this? And it's like, I don't want to go through this. I want to grow through this. Yes. And that is a choice. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it is a choice.
It's not. It's roots grow somewhere.
Yeah.
Like they grow somewhere, but the problem is when you feed roots, they get planted firmer. And the way we feed the root to our soul, to our heart, is through our eyes, ears, and mouth.
Yeah.
And so what you listen to, what you watch, the conversations you have are feeding a root, whether you realize it or not, guys.
Yeah, 100%.
It's feeding a root, and that root has to go up and out. And so what you feed that root, it's the same way. What goes in through ears, eyes, and mouth is going to come out in the way you perceive what's being said around you. It's going to come out in the way you see the world. It's going to come out in the way you talk. And so exactly what you said, like, it's not cliche. It's actually biblical in Hebrews about, roots of bitterness, and so that is why it is so important. And I second what you said about starting your day with something positive. Muscles, you can only pick up a 5-pound weight when you're first starting out, or a 10-pound weight when you're first starting out. Like if you've never lifted weights, you're not going to lift 100 pounds, like unless you're, I don't know, like some phenom, right?
Right.
But when you lift that 5-pound weight, eventually that 5-pound weight is going to be nothing. You're going to go to a 10-pound weight, but you have to do that even though you don't see the growth at the moment. And so you're planting these seeds, like what Chance said, when you start out in the morning, even though you don't feel like it, even though there's a lot of pain in regard to anything, or you're just like, I just don't want to do this today. Plant the seed anyway, even though you don't see the fruit that day. Like keep planting the seed, and that root inside your soul and your heart, it's going to get firmer and firmer. And one day you're going to wake up and you're lifting 100-pound weight because of the seeds you planted.
Yeah.
So
100%. Well, some of the questions that you ask about that particular topic, as I'm thinking now, and not as emotional, when you're trying to answer and you're very emotional, it's very hard to keep your thoughts together. And then as I'm able to process things a little bit more, I'm able to kind of think back and go, man, that what I just said, that for me was a crucial thing. And not only that, but gratitude journaling, writing down. Now, this happened for me the Saturday, 10 days before Landon died. I woke up on a Saturday morning. It was super early, 4:00 in the morning, maybe. There were some things going phenomenal in our business, and life was obviously very good. And otherwise, we've been blessed. And so I wake up and I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. I'd never done this, by the way. I did not have a gratitude journal at the time. Yeah. I was definitely involved in personal growth, but I wake up and I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. And I literally wrote on 3 long yellow legal pad, 3 pages front and back, just nonstop things I was grateful for. Yeah. This is 10 days before Landon dies. Wow. And, I believe that was a God thing. I believe me saying what I said was a God thing. I didn't intentionally tie them together. Yeah. I was praying on the way out there. So God probably put that in my mouth, and I was praying on the way home. How am I going to do this? How am I going to function? And it was just like the prayers were not wordy anymore. It was like, God, please fill me and flow through me. That's all I got, Yeah. And so I did realize though, back in probably 2012, the significance of what I put in my mind first thing in the day, whether it's first thing waking up or first thing at the office. For me, it's first thing waking up.
Yeah.
And I put faith things in first. I just do, because so much of my Christian life, I was struggling with going in and out of reading a Bible I didn't quite understand. And I would do devotionals, then I wouldn't read anything for 90 days. Then I'd start reading again. And I just struggled with it. And so when the Bible app came out, I was like, all right, I can do one verse a day. Like I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I just started one verse a day, and the power of one verse a day by itself is amazing.
Yeah.
But then I started, it's like one verse is a minimum.
Yeah.
Most days it's a verse. Now it's a devotional. Yeah. It's prayer time. It's journaling time, gratitude journal. It's all that. And some of that was before we lost Landon. So some of that, some of the personal growth stuff.
Yeah.
The challenges, like all the challenges that I know other people have gone through.
Yeah.
And I'll just give one example because I could literally give you 100. A guy named Nick Vujicic from Australia, no arms, no legs, motivational speaker. Look him up. Life Without Limits is his book. I learned about him years ago. And it's just one example of, okay, how do you do his life? How do you wake up every morning, have to function, put your clothes on somehow, function? Like this guy can swim. Unbelievable. I mean, you got to go YouTube this guy, Nick Vujicic.
Yeah. And
I'll give you the spelling of it because it's a weird spelling, but he's from Australia, motivational speaker. Unbelievable. And it's like, I was drawn, my mom's story, or my life with my mom, not her story, I witnessed it, led me, I was so inspired by the word perseverance. I was just curious, the underdog, all this. Well, early in my Christian walk, when I gave my life to Christ, I found this verse because I was trying to read and figure something out. And I was telling my pastor, I'm like, I am struggling with reading the Bible. And he's like, go to James. I'm like, all right. Yeah. So I started reading James. I'm like, this is easy. Well, literally James verse 2-4 has been my favorite verse. Now, I don't know if you want this as your favorite verse, but it's been mine. And it's, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Now, I was a young athlete at the time. And the thing I loved about it was the word perseverance on the back end. I didn't really comprehend all the front end, but through my entire life of it's an example of the power of one verse. The verse didn't change. God changed me in reading it 1,000,000 times. And so, the perseverance, the cool, let's be tough, whatever that stands for. Let's win. Let's go coach people to win and all that was it. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. In the middle, you got the trials. It's like, okay. And I'm okay with most of those because we have desired adversity and we have undesired adversity. And I'm like, all right, I hadn't had all the undesired. I'd had some. I didn't know what it was. But, it's like I'm good with trials. I like trials. I like challenges, Well, then on the front end, it's like, how do you consider it pure joy? The only way is God. The only way. It has to be a perspective that is different than your own. And it's like, I know I'm going to be with Landon again. Yeah. I know there's a broader, there's having Landon and looking at him as a baby. I cannot imagine how people can think there's no God. Yeah. And so many other reasons. I can't imagine how we can think there's no God. Now, trying to figure out who God is. And I think we try to make God who we want God to be, and which is fine. That's human, In the book, The 40 Days of Purpose, I think is what the purpose-driven life, I remember the very beginning of it. It's not about you, It's like, I needed that, It's like, okay, I need to learn this. But that verse has taken me in reverse, to go to that beginning and go, okay, now I read it. I'm like, okay, I'm understanding this a little bit now. Now, how do I do it? Well, for me, I got to put it in. Yeah. It's like, Coach Perry and I say all the time when we're teaching, it's like when an orange gets squeezed, what comes out? Orange juice. Okay. When your life gets squeezed, what comes out? I don't know. What are you putting in? Yeah. So if you're not putting good stuff in, good stuff ain't coming out. Right. And so many of us don't. And I spent time in my middle years in business taking in the news, unbelievable amounts. Yeah. And taking in email and everybody else's agenda. And it wasn't all bad, but it wasn't uplifting, edifying, growing. Right. It was just everybody else's agenda.
Right.
And I was coached by somebody. I hired a coach, and he's like, look, he took me through a lesson, and when he did that, I was like, dang. And we teach this lesson in our mental fitness, but it's like that lesson caused me to realize the significance of what am I putting in? And that's what I'm putting in my mind intentionally. When you use that word intentional, it's like every day, what am I putting in my mind? Mm-hmm. Then we get to our associations. Mm-hmm. So when I think back more without so much emotion, I can think back and say, what I put in my mind before that happened mattered. Mm-hmm. Let's say you didn't do that. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we don't want to add negative to something that's already horrible. Mm-hmm. Start today, right now. Put better stuff in your mind. Tomorrow morning, put better stuff in your mind. Write down one thing you're grateful for. If you lost a child and you had that child, and I've had friends that lost a child at birth, write down one thing you're grateful for. For that other family, as an example, they had other kids. They had each other. They could write down something. It doesn't have to be focused on what they're not grateful for. But every day, write down something you're grateful for. And, it could even be, I was grateful for the hope of having the child. I mean, it's just changing the perspective and reframing it to a perspective that is different than what you have, and putting good stuff in, and then being around other people that are putting good stuff in. I do not spend time, like long periods of time, with people that are not growing. Yeah. I don't have the luxury to do that. I can't, I will go, I don't want to duplicate the other stuff. I've had my seasons in my life where I duplicated things that are not healthy. I don't want to do that. I have to be very guarded with what goes in my mind and who I'm around. And I still love all my friends and all the, I love people, but there's 3-minute people, there's 30-minute people. And this is coaching I got. There's 3-hour people and there's 3-day people. Yeah. And I got to figure out, who does God want in my path to help me go to my next level? Because we're most equipped to serve the person we once were if we're growing. If we're not growing, we're not necessarily most equipped later in life to serve who we once were, because we just went through it. Yeah. We didn't learn from it. But if we go through, like everybody listening has their challenges, desired or undesired, or if they're building a business, they're trying to be a great parent, whatever, they have this path that's before them. That if they grow through it intentionally and they start putting good stuff in their mind, as they get down the road, they are going to be equipped to serve the person they once were. Could be a child, could be an adult child, could be somebody else. Yeah. When you get the feeling of pouring into somebody else when they need it, like you needed it back then, and you maybe didn't have it, but you get to fill that in somebody else who's struggling, and you're going, dang, man, I can relate to that so much. Yes. And then you connect with them and you give them a little bit of oxygen, just a little bit of something. Yeah. There's nothing better. And so everybody can be a coach. You don't have to have the name coach. You are most equipped to serve the person you once were. Yeah. If you're growing. So how do we grow? We got to get a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. And we got to put good stuff in our mind. And do some pruning. Yeah, for sure. Pruning. If there's people in your life, you're allowed to have boundaries. Yep. You're allowed to say, I'm stepping into a new me. Yep. You can either get on board or we're going to have to put some boundaries up. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think some people are like I've heard this before, but you're supposed to be a Christian. You're supposed to love me. You know what? I'm also supposed to make sure that I'm stepping into who God has called me to be. Yeah. And I can love you from afar. Yeah. Yep. And they may be the people that the time frame varies or the environment varies, where we can serve them, we can love them, we can do things for them, but we don't have to do the things they do. Correct. And or share in the conversations that they share in. And this is a struggle for all of us, because you mentioned community earlier. And I think we're in such a tough time right now where everybody's so distracted. We're uncertain. We're in somewhat chaotic times. The society is very polarizing. It is essential, whether we've lost a child or not, we're all going through we've either been through a challenge, going through one, or we're going to go through one. You better get a circle around you, or a community, call it whatever number of people. Yeah. That's going to help you be strong through tough times. Yeah. And then you're going to be in that community too. And you're going to be able to help people be strong, because we're all different, right? And that community thing to me, as I'm working on building businesses and doing some things that matter and they're impactful, that's one of the focus points is how distracted everybody is, but how hungry people are for meaning and impact when they find it.
Yes.
When they find it, they're like, oh, that's different, you know? And now, okay, but now you go to, you just experience it. You just put something good in your head one day. I ain't going to do it. If you're still hanging around negative people all day long, every day, and that's the majority of your time, and you do the one thing in the morning. Now, if you keep doing the one thing in the morning every morning, what's going to happen is your mindset's going to grow. You're going to start bringing positive things into a negative conversation at work or wherever. And then you're going to figure out eventually, okay, this is either not where I want to be so much of my time, or I'm going to say, man, have you guys ever considered putting, like starting your morning this way? And you're going to influence this group. So you could influence the group. Yeah. If they're open to it, if they're ready. And if they're not, then you could eventually go, okay, I'm going to love you. I mean, I do love my friends that I've had throughout my entire life and people in general, but I'm not going to spend a weekend with them, or I'm not going to spend hours with them or whatever, and
you're not a bad person. If you're listening, you're not a bad person for making the decision to put a boundary up. And don't let people make you feel like a bad person when you're moving into the potential and the person that you were meant to be and the healthier you and pruning. Don't let somebody, I think I'm really talking about like really unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
Don't let somebody make you feel bad for walking into the best version of you.
Yeah.
That's not on you.
Yeah. I had a quick story. Do we have time?
Yeah.
Had a quick story,
like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. Quick experience I had at my 10-year reunion. So you talk about so I had a friend named Brian in junior high. We hung out together. His parents would take us out to eat, and it was really cool because we went to Wendy's. I thought that was like fine dining or whatever. But anyway, we did this. Well, he was a very strong person in his faith in junior high. We go to high school. I turned kind of wild, kind of like my dad. I was kind of 50-50, either doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Brian never joined that crowd that did the, things that you shouldn't be doing, right? But he was never not my friend. Now, he never went with me there. He always invited me to come to church. And I did go with him a few times. But he never changed who he was. He was working on being in high school who God wanted him to be. He had a very strong family, very good, consistent in their faith and all that. What was cool is at the 10-year reunion, now I'd already given my life to Christ, and that matters to me, and my, the faith life matters to me. And he had no idea. At the 10-year reunion, I shared with him, he was a youth pastor in Kansas City now, and I shared with him the significance of his example for me. Yeah. He never judged me. He never acted ill towards me. He was always kind, always my friend if we ever interacted. Every once in a while, he would invite me to come to things, youth group wise, whatever. I always felt like Brian cared about me, but he knew who he was. Again, I'm looking for those people. Like I was paying attention to Brian. My dad taught me this stuff early. That was a huge blessing to pay attention to people. And I knew it was real. Yeah. His faith was real. There was fruit there at that time. And I told him at our 10-year reunion, his example made a huge impact on me wanting to give my life to Christ, because if I do it, I want to be more like that. I don't want to be somebody that's judging people and pushing them away. Yeah. If we're meant to be light and salt, we're meant to be attractive, right? Yeah. Not us be attractive, but God be attractive through us. The Holy Spirit is meant to be attractive through us. And I'm not going to do that all the time, but I want that. And so I experienced that in him, and it was so cool. He had no idea. Yeah. And he was ecstatic because he's like, dang, he's like, I probably thought I had no impact on you.
That's amazing. No, that's good. And I love that. That's cool because he was younger. And so again, he's planting seeds. Yeah. And not even seeing the growth, but he planted the seeds anyway. I love that. No doubt.
Huge impact.
And if you are listening to this and you're like, man, I need to hear more from Chance, you can. Yeah. So I sat in last week. He invited me to what would you call that? Like mental fitness training class?
Yeah, it's a year long. Think of it as a physical fitness gym for your mind.
Okay.
So basically, but it's all year long.
And I sat in on it the other night and I was like shaking my head a lot because I was like, oh, that's the word, or that's good, or yep. And I don't always have like a great attention span, but he had me hooked. I mean, really the whole time I was like, man, this is good. And I got off of it and I said to Daniel, I was like, Daniel, he's really good at what he does. I was like, you have to sit in on this. So if you want to hear more of Chance, you absolutely can do that. What is the website?
Yeah, you can go to, all spelled out, onemorebenefit.com.
Okay. And that's weekly?
We do. So we send out a weekly email that's free that they can get that just by signing up. And then if they want to be a part of the paid training, it's a whole $10 a month to be in that. And that $10 is you, your spouse, and any 13 to 23-year-old in your household that wants to participate. Awesome. And they can participate independently. They can give their own email they don't have to sit on the same thing with mom and dad, you know. But a lot of the content that we teach, and Coach Perry and I do this a lot of times together. Sometimes I'm on it on my own. And sometimes we bring in other guest coaches. We do that about twice a month. Okay. And then we'll do bonus sessions. So that's 24 times a year. And then we'll have about 5 or 6 bonus sessions throughout the year with different coaches that come in where we talk about maybe physical fitness, because I've trained people in that world for a long time, or we'll talk about financial wellness and fitness. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I just have realized in my own life through, again, my dad's example, what I wanted was to build a healthier, more fit mind and help other people do the same. We can't take it for granted. We do have to be intentional about what we put in each morning and what we allow in throughout the day, who we associate with. Do we know where we're wanting to go in life? And our mindset and our thoughts are really the basis, our beliefs. You know, we have our current identity that we have today. We're an expert at being who we are today. We may not be exactly who we want to be. Like my mentor said, you are exactly where you want to be. Well, that really wasn't very fun for me. But we are who we are today, you know. But how do we want to, what if we want to change our identity? Well, it starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts are what make that up. And then our thoughts lead to our actions lead to our habits. Habits develop our character, and they either change or confirm our identity. And oftentimes it confirms it. We don't change it. And if we changed it, everybody would change it January 1. Yeah. Because behavioral changes don't last. Yeah. You do what you do because of what you think of you. That comes from Craig Rochelle. And he's one of the top leaders out there, both in the Christian space and in the leadership space. And if behavioral change worked, New Year's resolutions would work. But it doesn't. We've got to get at the heart of how we see ourselves and really learn about confidence, self-confidence, self-worth, worth, all these things. And so we just working on our mental fitness on a regular basis and give people resources to do a lot more than what we give. So this is, twice a month's not a lot, but every time we're giving you resources so you can go. When you asked earlier, it's like, where could we point people to? Well, we're constantly pointing people to books, free resources on YouTube, podcasts, free podcasts like yours. I mean, we would point people to, hey, I listened to this podcast episode that you had of somebody that really was a phenomenal story in how do couples communicate or whatever. And if we're talking about relationships and communication, we're going to share that podcast episode. And it gets people the easy, they don't have to go search the internet for, gosh, what do I look for? You know?
At this point, guys, in our economy, you can give up literally 1 cup of coffee at Starbucks and sit in on Chance, his meetings twice a month. So, I mean, really. And I'm going to finish with this. Chance and I'm a big connector, like a personality trait. I'm a connector. You tell me something, I'm going to more than likely 9 times out of 10 know exactly who to connect you with and where to put you. Chance, you sound like that too. So we both were in Nixa. Fun fact, he is a Nixa high school football coach. If you see him, give him a high five. If you see me, I'd love to high five you too. But we're connectors. So if you need to get connected, if you're new to the area, if you need a resource, whatever it is, connect with us. And like Chance said, I can give you his info. If you're more comfortable, getting a connected resource from a female, I'm here for you. Male, Chance. If you really don't care, then choose one of us. So Chance, thank you. This is phenomenal. I was excited about this today. And as we're talking, I'm like, dang, I'm pumped for this to release because there's some good nuggets in here. So
Well, I appreciate that.
thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate what you share. You give equal perspective and help me think through my thoughts, because sometimes it's hard, especially when you get emotional, what to really come back with. But I just love what you're doing. I've always been attracted to people, friends. As I was growing up, I literally used the word real.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate people who are real, that you don't have to peel layers back to figure out who they are. And I've just always respected and appreciated that. And I love that you're having real conversations with people, and that people in this busy world can listen and learn and get better.
I appreciate that.